Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Learn with Jason. Today on the show, we have Srushtika Neelakantham. Srushtika, thank you so much for joining us. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, and thank you for having me on your show.
I am super excited because we're going to do a few things that I love today. One is we're going to build an app that uses real time, and that is always one of my favorite things to do. And two is we're probably going to play with pictures of corgis, which is my second favorite thing to do. So, so before we
Perfect.
talk about that, let's talk a little bit about you. So for folks who aren't familiar with you, can you give us a little background on yourself?
Sure thing. So, hey everyone, I'm Srishtika Neelakantham. I work as a developer relations engineer in Ably, which is a real-time messaging platform as a service, which we'll talk about today. But as part of this, I fiddle around with a lot of different kinds of technologies, different platforms, different languages to see how we can make use of real-time data flowing around, connecting all of these different pieces together with sort of live exchange of information. So really excited to be on the show.
Yeah, I think this is going to be so fun. I like every time I get a chance to play with real time, it's always a blast because there's nothing more fun to me than building an experience that we can all enjoy together, right? And while it's kind of fun to like get on Twitter and all tweet about the same thing while we're doing it, it's way more fun to be in the same app and watching the reactions fly by and that sort of thing. So
Definitely.
before we talk about exactly what we want to do today, because I do think we have a really fun idea, I just kind of want to get your take on, like, obviously you believe in real time, right? You wouldn't be working in Ably if you didn't think so. So I'd love to hear what what to you is the major benefit. Like, why would somebody want to add real time to their app? What are they getting when they do so?
I think I think more than ever now is the best time to sort of like talk about this with the pandemic and everything else going on, and everyone coming more and more online and collaborating online with sort of live experiences as well. Whatever is happening in the real world, we have a need with a lot of different use cases to sort of
Mm,
get that information as soon as it is being created. And I think real time messaging is the most efficient way you can do that because there are ways to sort of like just send a request, get the response back, etc., and sort of like do this at certain points when you require that information. But as it is being generated, you can't expect the person who's interested to know this information to know that there's new information available. So I think that's what makes real-time messaging really useful. And I think this sort of is creeping into like almost everything we're doing, right? We are working online. We are doing this live stream. There are
hmm.
people chatting with us, adding comments on Twitch. There are, uh, you know, all these experiences happening in real time is made possible because of real time messaging. So I think we're moving only closer to event driven experiences that way.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think I mean it's kind of subtle, but it feels like real time is creeping into everything, right? And what I've noticed is like their experience that I didn't realize I wanted until I had them that real time has made possible. So a good example of this is like if you use the headless CMS Sanity, they have this feature where if you're logged in and you're editing the same page as somebody else, they will show that person's picture and say, hey, so and so's in this document. And more importantly, they will lock a field that is being edited so that you don't accidentally override each other's stuff. Or, another similar implementation of this is in Google Docs, where multiple people are in the page at the same time, and you can follow their cursors around. And if somebody's giving a presentation, you don't have to necessarily be doing a screen share. You can actually look at the same document and see where their cursor is. Um, Tools like Miro and Figma
Yes,
all have these really nice real-time experiences where I can pull everybody to my cursor. VS Code Live Share, like all of this stuff is
I was going to
these
mention that.
amazing
Yeah.
experiences, right? And so these are all things that are possible with tools like Ably. Um, and so
Definitely.
so you're focused on the web, or is Ably kind of broader than that, and web is one of the targets?
So web is one of the targets. Ably can, I think, literally work on any platform. It has a bunch of different SDKs. It also has different sort of protocols and what do you call it? Protocol translations inbuilt. So you
Mm.
can have an IoT device working on the MQTT protocol, sending a message which a web page is subscribed to in real time, but under the hood, it's working on WebSockets. So you can do that with Ably with no relation to the actual underlying protocols or infrastructure even.
So if I were for thank you for the sub, Neon Flights. So if I, for example, had an idea that I wanted to say my partner is into plants, right? And so she gets an IoT sensor that can detect the moisture level of the soil in one of her potted plants. You're
Mhm.
saying that we could set up something where when the moisture level hit whatever threshold, Ably could push a result or a notice to like a website that says, Marissa forgot to water her plants.
Definitely, that is 100% possible. I actually had a live webinar where I built this app, which is very silly because I mean, it tracks schedule of when someone is entering the office building, and I'm almost always late,
Oh,
so it doesn't
okay.
work for me. But so it actually detects the sensor of the access card being touched on the sensor card reader or whatever, and then
Hmm.
uses that information to publish that message to Ably, and Ably in turn will publish it, I mean, do all of its magic. And at the end of it, you get an update in the stand up channel on Slack saying, hey, this person is now in the building, in case you wanted to say
Oh
hi.
man. So okay. So now I want to build a thing that would detect when I go live on Twitch and turn on the little red light that's like in session. I want that to.
Exactly.
Oh, now I want that. Okay. Okay.
Even the tweet you made as soon as we started the live stream, you could
Hmm.
automate it entirely when you click on start. Twitch must
Oh, I
have an
need to do
API
that.
which tells you that,
Yeah.
so it just
Hmm.
sends an automatic tweet.
Okay. All right. Well, you're getting me sold here. I mean, and this is really one of those things that like, okay, so we're talking about so many different services that we can now plug together because we have access to these sorts of real time things. So specifically, when we're talking about real time, let's talk a little bit about what's actually happening because I think that especially for me, when I first learned about real time, I had a hard time understanding what is actually going on because it's not like when I like if you and I are on a website, I'm not on your computer. I'm not touching anything on your computer. So can you talk a little bit about what the actual process is, like what's happening?
Yeah, so essentially, I think it would be good if I told you how this works under the hood to
Hmm.
make this possible, right? So
Hmm.
we know that over the internet, if two people have to communicate with each other, it's essentially using the hypertext transfer protocol or HTTP as we all commonly know it. So, for example, you need to get some information from me, or let's say a central server, you would send a request to that endpoint. And depending on what your request is, I will send back some information for whatever you've requested if I have it. And this is okay for things which are, infrequent because you're just doing one-off requests for information, right? But for real-time use cases, we are talking about chat. We're talking about multiplayer games, which two people, or like even the Google Docs, which multiple people over the globe are actually working on at the same time. So
Hmm.
there's only almost like a few milliseconds worth of delay for the information to go from one person to the other. And in that sort of a scenario, if you're just relying on request response cycles, it adds to a lot of overhead and delay, which is not acceptable in these use cases. So instead, what you do is actually there's a middle step in that, where from HTTP you can think of something called long polling, where you're still sending a request, but you're getting a bunch of responses back together, like a bunch of data back together,
Hmm.
instead of repeating, let's say, 3 or 4 request response cycles. You're just sending one request, waiting there, collecting some information, and bringing all of that together, which would have been worth 3 requests in terms of HTTP. But even so, with let's say a multiplayer game, we don't want that batches of data. We want the data as soon as it's being produced,
Right.
right?
Right.
As less the data can be, or as more the data can be. So now with real time, we now have a protocol called WebSockets, which starts off as a HTTP handshake, because HTTP is a standard and everyone is compliant with this, but WebSockets is not. It's not the case with that, right? Not every uh, device speaking to the internet is compliant with WebSockets. So you start that off as a HTTP handshake, but in that handshake, you include an upgrade header saying, hey, I would like to upgrade this communication to one that works over WebSockets. Are you compliant? If yes, then can we just do that upgrade? And if the other party is compliant, they say yes, and then they switch to a bidirectional and duplex connection. What that means is now both the parties can talk with each other at the same time, and also that connection remains open for as long as the application that they're communicating on is running. This means that, for you and I to sort of chat, we have an open connection. Your computer and my computer have an open connection. And whenever I'm sending something, it is pushed to you because you're already subscribed to it. Like a magazine, you subscribe to it and they automatically send it to your home. You don't have to go to the shop and get it to see if it's available or not. So that makes things very efficient. Having said that, WebSockets is not just the only protocol for real-time messaging. Sure. There are also things like MQTT, as I was mentioning, for IoT and stuff, which is a different kind. It works a slightly different way, but the premise of it is the pub-sub messaging pattern, where people are, or devices are either publishers or subscribers or both, and all the information is pushed to subscribers of that information, so they don't have to request it from that endpoint, which is making that information available.
Nice. Yeah. And what I like about it is that when you start working with this protocol, so and everything that you just described is a lot, right? Like thinking about WebSockets and this upgrade handshake and all the things that you have to do there, that's why a service like Ably is valuable, is because you do all of that for us, right?
Yes. Actually, it's not just masking the WebSockets protocol to give you like the PubSub pattern on top of it, just to use, out of the box, but also the infrastructure, because it's probably easier to scale things that are working with HTTP, right? If one server is overbooked, you go to another server, you just redirect the request using a load balance or something. But with WebSockets, you have persistent connections with all of these. So what do you do then to make sure the information is remaining consistent with all of the different sort of server endpoints you are speaking with? So scaling that WebSockets based infrastructure becomes really complex. So, and Ably provides infrastructure along with the PubSub messaging.
I have to give you respect for keeping your concentration throughout this nonsense. Cassidy has arrived in the chat. Hello, Cassidy. I also saw that Ben rated a minute ago. Thank you, Ben. Welcome, everyone. We're talking about real time today. Well, we're not talking about anything right now. We're just getting buried in boops. But thank you very much, Jimena, for the sub. Thank you, 503 serve 503 for the sub. And cool. At this point, I think we just have to let them get it out of their system. This is another application of real time, by the way. So this is the way that this works is that whenever the boop emoji gets used on Twitch, it fires a real time event to my stream overlay, which then triggers one of them to fall from the ceiling. So when someone like Cassidy gets the urge, they can just spam boops until there's nothing left of us.
That's awesome. We should build something like that with Ably.
Yeah, I actually think this would be super fun, right? Like, and this is kind of the benefit. So for me to do this, I had to build a whole real-time implementation. It was a huge pain, and I don't even think it works very well. So having something that would make this more consistent, that could make this more predictably multiplayer, would be really fun. Because one of the things that is true here is, like, I have no replay ability. Like, you want to see me make Cassidy really sad? Watch, I'll reload this scene. And look, they're all gone. Bye. So like there's no but there's no persistence here, right? Like and there's no replayability. I can't go back in time. Like all this work that happens on the Ably side, I would have to go implement that myself, and that would be fine. But it's a lot of work, and I don't really want to maintain it. So
Yeah, and that's not what you really want to build, right? You just want to get your boobs on the screen whenever someone clicks on it. So just do that.
exactly. I am really looking at shortening the time to boop. Oh, we've angered Cassidy. Look at this. All right, Chad. All right, you win.
I really love the time to boop, by the way. I might use it somewhere. Quote by Jason.
Oh, nicely done, chat. That is, I need some kind of like an all-time boop count. That would be a good side project just to see
Yeah,
how many of these
that would be
things have been
cool.
fired over the months. Okay, so I feel like in the abstract I understand this, and there's one more point that I want to make that I think is really exciting, which is there is a like all of the complexity of getting WebSockets set up aside, using WebSockets is actually really pleasant because you handle WebSockets in the same event-driven way that you handle clicks or that you handle any other kind of JavaScript event. You can basically do like on click on whatever arbitrary real-time event, and then you just run some JavaScript. And that to me is where it starts to feel super powerful
Yeah,
because
that's
when I
awesome.
when I look at my like my overlays, I'm like, on Twitch chat, get the message, and then check if there are boops in it. Like that's, it doesn't feel like magic. I'm not like trying to handle streams. I'm not thinking about WebSockets. I just have an event and some stuff that gets passed in that event, and I can do things. And so that's
Super
where it
easy.
starts to feel magic. And I feel like that's what I'm excited about with Ably is it gets us straight to that part where we get to work with the
Yeah,
events, and I don't have to think about all the parts of how we get them.
yeah,
Um,
exactly.
so with that, I feel like maybe we should start. Let's maybe jump over and actually write some code. What do you think?
Let's do it.
All right, here we go. So I'm going to move us over into pair programming view, and while we do that, this episode, like all episodes, is being live captioned. We've got Jordan with us today. Thank you so much, Jordan, for hanging out. Jordan's from White Coat Captioning, and if you want to see those captions, they are on the homepage, learnwithjason.dev. Um, there it goes. That's the link, and then that is made possible by our sponsors. Netlify, Fauna, Hasura, Auth0 all kick in to make the show more accessible to more people. I very much appreciate that. While you're checking out the homepage, these are links. You can go and click them. We are hanging out with Shrustika today, so make sure you go and follow her on Twitter. That's the link there. Make sure you go and make that happen. And we are using Ably today to build this thing out. So get over there, check it out. And I think this is where I need to start, right? So I'm at 0 here. I don't have an Ably account. I don't have any project set up. What's my first step if I want to jump in here?
So you would sign up for a free account,
Okay.
either using the button at the top right or on the center of the screen. Yeah.
Oh,
So
good. I
just
can
fill up
sign up
some
with my
details.
GitHub. Let's do that.
Perfect.
All right. So I'm going to authorize Ably. And let's see. That one? Eh? I have so many. Okay. Here we go. Here we go. All right. So I am setting up an account. Yeah, Netlify, good. I agree and consent. I'm not a robot.
Okay.
All
So
right.
I should mention here that we are improving this developer experience because when you arrive to this page, we have realized from a lot of feedback that it may not be clear why you have these three options because at this point you're very new to the service. So while that's being done, I can help you out here. So the first one is what we need at this point because we are building real-time apps to
Mm-hmm.
sort of communicate with each other. But the
Mm-hmm.
second one is more meant for different data streaming companies or services or enterprises wanting to stream data to millions of users. So,
Mm.
for example, let's say Tennis Australia is doing different kinds of matches, right? And they want to stream the scores that are happening live to millions of users across the globe. So, you would just use that service, which is called API Streamer, and just allow millions of subscribers to create their own Ably account and subscribe to your feed if it is free.
Okay.
If it's like a commercial one, you'll gate it and only invite people to sort of subscribe to your service or
Got it.
data.
So today I'm going to click real-time apps.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
We can just, have.
Is it going to let me?
No, I'm not. Oh, they did. Oh, cool. Okay, so nice. Oh,
Oh,
what
wait,
is
did it like
happening?
break? Uh-oh.
Oh, that's cool.
Okay. Nope, not this one. Logging in with GitHub. This. And we're logged in. Okay. So
Awesome.
this API
So
key I'm going to need to roll because we wouldn't want people to use that.
exactly. So you can copy that here, or you can again access it anytime when you get to your dashboard.
Yeah.
And below that, you would see that you have different code snippets. So it's literally 3 lines of code to publish, 3 lines of code to subscribe, and you have real-time messaging on any number of devices working right
Nice.
away.
Yeah. No, this is great. Okay. And I like that you've got the different language snippets set up. That's really nice. And I do like that it kind of auto completes with the API key. So if oh, nice, subscribe only. That's also cool. So
Yes,
if, like this one could be public if I wanted to have like a stream, right? Of just like
yes,
people
but
seeing the.
yes, but if you're using that as well and you would like to publish some information, you can't do that because like the whole API key is subscribe only. But if you
Right,
want to
right.
use that for subscriber applications, like if you, let's say you have two applications, one with which you have the admin control, you're doing different things, and the other one which is only you want it only to just listen to information and not do anything, you can use that. But you can come back to the dashboard later and set up, different keys with different permissions, subscribe, presence, publish only, etc. We can
Great.
get into that.
Okay. So I've got my account. I've got an API key. It looks like I've got the ability to both send and receive a message here.
Yeah,
Should I like what's our next step here? Should I like set up the little toy app that we were going to build today?
yeah, let's do that. We
Okay.
can set up a JavaScript file and add this in.
So here's our idea, chat. Here's what we're going to do today. We are going to build a reactions app so that you can react to a picture of a corgi, which is always my favorite way to use technology. So let's open up. I'm actually gonna. Why did I open this? I meant to open up the terminal here because I'm gonna create a new folder. So let's go into. We're gonna make a directory. We'll call this real-time Jamstack reactions. And then we're going to get into it. All right, I'm going to get init. And then I'm going to open up this folder. So inside this folder, it's just empty. And I want to create a new file. And it's just going to be a straight up index.html.
Mm-hmm.
Real-time Jamstack reactions with Ably. Okay. And then in here, we are going to set up our basic site. So let's give ourselves a main. And in our main, we will have a div, which will be our image, right? And then below it, we'll have a form, which will be reactions, and we'll figure out how to do the rest of that later. But for now, let's just make, should it be a form? I think these are just going to be buttons. Yeah, they're
Yeah,
just going
this
to be
can be
buttons.
buttons. Yeah.
So let's instead make this a div, and we'll give it a class. And each of these is going to be a button, and the button will be for like a different thing. So we want, oh no, I forgot how to, what for emotes, quick chat, accessibility. What's the right way to label? It's like Aria, is it Aria label? But let's do some reactions. So we need to do a span. I can't remember exactly what the thing is. I'm hoping the chat is furiously Googling this for us right now. Let's add another one.
It's Aria label. Yeah, it is Aria label, as you said.
Oh, perfect. We'll add heart eyes. And then we'll do maybe one more, which is going to be like we'll just add a dog. That's it. Those are all good reactions, right? So let's in the span, go Aria label. And each of these needs to be a thing. So this one will be purple heart. This one will be face with heart eyes. And this one will be dog face. Right? Okay, so now we have these pieces here. Let's go get ourselves an image. So I'm going to go to Unsplash and look up a corgi.
Oh, right.
This is a very good corgi. This will be our corgi here. So we're going to copy the image link, come back here, and Unsplash is unique in that they like hot linking. They're like one of the only services I've seen where they're like, you need to hot link. Let's see, like corgi lying down, looking real cute. Okay, so now we have the basics of a site here. Let me add a style tag, and let's just run this. Let's get it running in the browser. So I'm going to run Netlify dev, and this should get our site up and running. Opened it in this browser. Let me pull this over. Here we go. So we've got the basics of what we're doing here, right? So let's make this look a little bit nicer. So I'm going to pull this over to the side, and let's add just a teensy tiny bit of styling. So I'm going to set, let's add main. We'll give it a display of flex. We'll give it an align items of center and a justify content of center. All right, and then we're gonna take the image and let's add, should go in here? Image, right? Then we can make this one a max width of, let's say, 500 pixels, and then we're gonna give the image a max width of 100%. Okay, now we got that. And I just realized we need to set the flex direction on this. Flex, nope. Flex direction column. And look at it go, beautiful.
Nice.
And then we need to also set the height on this. So let's set the height to 100 height. Hey, vertically centered. So then we can come into these reactions and let's just add a little bit here. We'll go with margin top of like 2 rem, 1 rem, and I feel like that's pretty good, right? Like that seems okay. Let's maybe make the buttons font size like 2 rem. Yeah, bigger buttons seems like a good call. And we'll give them just a tiny bit of margin. Okay, so then we can go over to this inspector style sheet. You can grab all these and drop them right in. Bam, we got an app. So then if I refresh this, we should have kept all of our bits. We did. Okay, so this is all good. This is like the basics of an app. It doesn't actually do anything yet, but let's go ahead and deploy it so that we can, when we add the real time, we can see that stuff happen and everybody can try it out. So I'm going to git add everything here. I'm going to GitHub repo create learn with JSON real-time Jamstack reactions. It's going to be public. Good. All right, so then we can get commit, work in progress, markup, no interactivity. Let's push. And then we're going to initialize this. So I'm going to use Netlify init. We're using the Netlify CLI here. I want to create and configure a new site. I'm going to put it on my site or on my team. And we will call this real-time Jamstack reactions. Real-time Jamstack reactions, good. My build command, I don't need one because it's just an indexed file. I'm going to deploy the current directory. We don't have any Netlify functions yet, but I think we might end up there. And I'll let it create a netlify.toml. That sounds good.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so that puts us in pretty good shape here. We've got our site running. So let's just open up Netlify. And it opened up in this browser again. I don't know why that's my primary browser here. But now we have a site. Here's our real-time Jamstack reaction site. Nice and fast.
Cool.
Like, love that. This is one of my favorite things about like building in the Jamstack is the site is now live, it's running, we can do whatever we want with it. Y'all can go and look at it, but it's not doing what we want just yet because the thing we really want here is I want to be able to track counts of reactions. We don't have time to do the animation that I'd love to do where they like fly around, but you know, imagine that that's what's going to happen, and instead we'll keep track of like the number. So I have now reached the extent of my knowledge. I can get this to look right, but I can't get it to do anything yet. So what should my next step be?
So if you go back to the page where you signed up for the Ably account.
Yes. Here.
Yes, perfect. So if you click on try this in the browser, just so we can grab the CDN link. In that, go to HTML. Yeah, you see this CDN script there for Ably?
Oh, not jQuery, just Ably.
No, yeah, just Ably.
All right.
Yeah, add that to your HTML.
Okay, let's stick this right here.
Perfect. Now, if you go back to the sign up page, just the main one where you had those three, yeah, just copy that and paste it into a JS file, which links to that HTML file.
Okay. So I think since we're going simple, is it okay if I just put it here? Is that all right?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay. So let's drop this in. All
cool
right.
Things. You already have the key there. We are using the test channel, as you see there. You can change that to anything else that you may like. Say
reactions.
Yeah, perfect. And the channel.publish thing, you need to do that on button click. And
got it.
Greeting is the event name and hello is the data. And we can send an object instead of hello and any event name instead of greeting.
Okay. So let's do this. Let's get a function set up, and it will be handle reaction. And I guess we don't really need to do anything with an event because it's just a button click and it doesn't have any, like, nothing's actually going to happen right now. So what we can do is we can say, oh no, we do need that because we need the event target. So let's get our event. We'll go event.target. So our event is going to be our button is going to be the event.target. And then what we can do is we're going to channel publish, and we want to publish to just greeting.
Yeah, or we could call it new reaction as the event name. So the first parameter is the event name that you're publishing.
Okay.
And the second parameter is the data related to that event, and that could be a JavaScript object, a JSON object.
Okay. And so we could do, let's do this. Let's do the type, and then the type, let's give each of these a data type, and we'll say heart, heart eyes, and dog. So then we can get that out, and Wait, what is it? Crap, gotta look it up. How do you get an HTML data attribute? Using data, you can tell I've been here before. Dataset is the one I was looking for. So we can then get type will be button.dataset.type. And then count, we can just make 1 because it'll, all right, we could even call it something. You know what? We don't even need that, do we? We can just send the type.
Because we can just add it in the subscribe callback.
Perfect. Okay. So
cool. So we can get rid of that other published thing outside.
Okay. And then for each button, so let's do document query selector all button, and then we will. Did you just figure this out for me? That's kind of magical.
How's that doing it? Is it GitHub Autopilot, Copilot?
Yeah, GitHub Copilot. So we can go for each button, and then for each of these, we will do button.add event listener click handle reaction Copilot. You magnificent. Okay, so if that does what we expect it to do, then this will send a new reaction, but we won't see anything really. Right. Well, I guess we could see it in the network tab. Should we look at that? Yeah.
Also, there's the dev console in Ably if you want to just check out things there.
Okay. So let's do that. Let's run this a little bit. We'll run Netlify dev. That'll get our site back up and running here. Okay. So here is our thing here. So to find my dashboard.
Yeah. Apps dashboard.
And
perfect. Yeah. Click on that's the only app you've got.
Okay, so 2 peak connections. That's the maximum that we've got. I assume that's because I refreshed the page. And
yes, one is the app that you're using, and the other is the previous page, which was showing you that was actually running live.
Okay.
The JS bin stuff. So if you click on that default app.
Here we go.
Go to the Dev Console tab.
Dev Console.
Yeah.
All right, so let's do this. I'm going to move this one to this side, and then we'll get this over here, but we're going to look at, here's the localhost one.
Yes, one thing you need to do on the Dev Console is if you scroll down, there is a place where you can subscribe to a channel. Yes, so enter a channel name. So you enter reactions. I think that was our channel name. Perfect.
Great.
And here you'll get all the logs whenever something is published.
Excellent. Oh, wait, I pushed the wrong button. Let me reload this. And now, new reaction.
Look at that.
Hey, I think I sent the wrong data, though.
We don't have data coming in.
Oh, I did something wrong. That's probably my JavaScript not doing what I wanted it to. So let's take a peek here and console log button dataset type. I think I might have shortcutted here. No, that should be right. So let's try that again. It should, nope, they're undefined. Okay, so why is it undefined is a great question. Data type. Button.dataset type. Let's just console log the button. And make sure that it's doing what I want at all. That's not what I meant to refresh. I meant to refresh this one. Oh, we got to go to the parent. Okay, so we need to get up to the event.target. What is it? There's a thing for this. And find nearest ancestor, maybe.
I think target.parent element, event.target.parent element.
Parent element, or wait, is closest. So if we want to get to div to, okay, so I think what we do closest button. Look at Copilot reading my mind. Okay, so that's crazy. Magic. All right, let's try this one more time. We should get, ta-da! Okay, so let me reattach to this channel. reattach to reactions.
Oh, why did it go away? Oh yeah,
I
you
accidentally refreshed the page. So now we get heart. Heart
Look
eyes.
at that.
Dog.
Very nice.
Look at it go. Okay.
Perfect.
So this already we're just humming along here. So then the next thing to do would be to listen to this event, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So to do that.
So you just subscribe on the same channel with channel.subscribe.
Come on.
That is amazing.
Okay, so we've got channel.subscribe and we're going to reactions, right?
Yes.
Okay.
No, sorry. So new reaction is the event we need to subscribe to because that's what we're
Is it-
publishing.
But didn't we call it reactions? Like, this
But
is the
that is
channel name?
Yeah, but we are calling subscribe on that channel already because it is channel.subscribe. I mean, we could actually give it a reactions channel, the name of the variable, because it's confusing otherwise.
Okay, I understand. So in subscribe, is calling it with no arguments?
You can leave the first argument empty and add a callback in the second parameter, but you can also add the event name, which is new reaction. So it will subscribe to only that event in the channel.
Got it. Okay, I definitely misunderstood how this worked, and now I get it, and I'm very excited. So
we can actually, I generally name the channels according to what the channel is. So in this case, like I would have called the variable reactions channel to say reactions channel.subscribe. Then it sort of like makes sense in the head. Otherwise it's confusing.
Got it. Okay. No, that actually does help a lot because that clarifies what's happening. We're already in the reactions channel, so I don't need to subscribe to it. I need to subscribe to the event. Got it. Okay. So then in here, we should be able to do something like, let's do this. We're going to put in span of class current count, and we'll set that at 0 and just duplicate that across. Okay. So then in here, what we want to do is we want to get the button is going to equal. Are you serious right now? No way. Is that correct? Hold on. Get the button with the data type of event.data.type. Is that what's going to come back?
Wow. Oh, wow. Like, how does it even know what's going to come back? That's crazy.
I have no idea.
That's amazing.
That is magic. It's like it kind of inferred it from this.
Yeah. Wow, that's very intuitive.
Unbelievable. Okay, so then we would be able to get the current count. Get out and don't.
We don't have to do anything here.
Jeez. Okay, so we don't need. That is actually. Oh my God. That is unbelievable. Okay, so it gets the current count, and then we would do button.query. Why am I even here? I can't. Oh, wow. I can't even handle this. Okay, so I'm gonna have to turn this off just so that it doesn't. Like, unbelievable. So we're getting the button, and the button is whatever button matches the type that we sent for the event. Then we grab the current count by parsing the integer value of whatever's in this current count span here. So that'll just pull that out as a 0 or a 1 or whatever it is. And then we're using base 10 is what that second argument is. Then we reset the inner HTML of current count to be current count plus 1. So we're effectively just incrementing that count by 1. So theoretically speaking, if I save this and I go out here and I refresh.
Look at that.
It's doing the thing. It's doing the thing, and it looks great. Okay, so then the next thing that we can do is let's just go ahead and publish this thing. So let's git add everything, git commit, get real time working. Okay, so let's push. And this should build nice and fast for us. Okay, that's live. So now if you go to real-time Jamstack apps, everybody's already there. Look at them go. Look at them go. Yeah,
Cool.
so it works now. We've got, you know, real-time events coming through, lots and lots of Corgi love in here. And this, I mean, this is amazing, right? So one question that I do have though is I just published that API key, right? And so that feels like probably not what I would want to do, because if we were doing anything other than sending these reactions, there would be issues of like potentially impersonation or somebody sending something naughty and things like that.
You hackers, you dirty hackers.
Exactly. So if we if we want to prevent the chat from mercilessly trolling us, what is the like how would we approach that?
So yes, you're very correct in that we never use or encourage using the API key in the front end apps or front end script in any way, because people can literally just take it, you know, pretend like they are you and publish any information. Also, you know, do anything, right? So instead, so API key authentication is only for testing, development, etc. In production, you should always use a different authentication strategy with Ably provides, which is called token authentication.
Mm-hmm.
So in that, what happens is instead of instantiating the Ably library using an API key, you would give it one of the two, either an auth URL or an auth callback. Let's take the example of an auth URL. This would be the URL of an authentication endpoint, which would be, you know, an auth server that you've deployed, or a function that is able to, you know, check some credentials and, you know, return some data back based on those credentials. And you can make it return an Ably token request.
Okay.
That token request will be used by our front-end client to then authenticate with Ably successfully. So in a sense, your own backend service has done the authentication step, you know, taken, let's say, if it is this email and this password, only then give the token token request back to the client. So in that way, you basically made sure it's not being used by people you don't want to.
Yeah. Okay. So there's a question from the chat about the Ably. So the question is, what parts of this are open source versus proprietary? So is part of the Ably service open source, and like which parts?
So basically, all of the SDKs, like the Java SDK, JavaScript SDK, or whichever language or platform, all of those SDKs are completely open sourced. You can check them out on GitHub, you know, add things, open issues, etc. But the core real-time service, which is a distributed platform deployed across the globe, which makes sure messaging happens at least latency and with 100% reliability, with message what do you call it, the sort of the direction of messages, or it's not lost. All of that things, the core real-time service itself is proprietary and it's not out to the public. But the different platforms, the way they interact with that core real-time service and make it available to developers to use it, that's all open source. Yeah.
Nice. Okay, great. So then looking at that, it sounds like we have to do a couple things here. So the first thing is we have to set up an auth URL and an auth callback. Now these are two separate endpoints that we need to be able to hit. Is that right?
No, so that is two options of implementing token authentication. You could have an auth URL or an auth callback, which is just a method. So let's go for the auth URL option. And if you actually skip to step 4.
Oops, click the, here we go, this button.
Yeah, and if you switch to Node.js on the top navbar. Yes.
Okay.
Perfect. And if you scroll down to a code snippet, yes. So as you can see, let's say this is an Express server handling the /auth endpoint, right?
Mhm.
It is essentially creating a token request using that method and sending that as a response back to the client. And we need to essentially implement this on a serverless function or on a backend server.
Okay, so we're going to create Netlify functions auth. Let's do ably auth url.js. Okay, and then in here we want to exports.handler, and that's going to be an async function with an event. That event is going to be, we're going to need the, let's see. And for the body, we're just going to start by sending back like, okay, so that we can make sure that it's doing what we want. So let's start with that. And then I'm going to run Netlify dev to make sure that we've got our function up and running the way that we want it to be. Okay, so let me go to .netlify functions ably auth URL, and it sends back okay. So next, we need to, it looked like there was a REST. Where did it go?
Yes. So Ably actually has two types of SDKs. One is the real time, and the other is the REST. So if you're just interested in sort of like sending requests, but still be able to use the Ably service, like, just do a one-off request to see, what data is just there on the channel, that sort of a thing, you would use REST. So for tokens, because we're just sending, request to Ably with the API key, we can use REST, but we can also use real time. It doesn't matter.
Okay, so I'm going to install Ably.
Mm-hmm.
And then it looks like I get it like so.
Yeah.
So here's what I'm going to do. Let's switch this over to be, I'm going to use const for these, and I'm going to change this to be an environment variable. So process dot env dot ably API key is what we're going to call this, right? So then I want to, I'm going to use env set, and then I'm going to pull this off screen actually, because you gave me an API key that can handle a little bit higher rate limiting. So I'm going to use that API key.
You hackers, you dirty
I know, you hackers. Okay, so now we have the Ably API key is set, and when I run this, we're gonna have access to it. But let's get into respond to authentication requests. So back to here, I want to rest.auth.create token request. So let's do that. Rest.auth.create token request. Love that TypeScript autocomplete. And in here, we're going to send in our token params. And
so
right
like, now in that example, yeah, the token params are empty, but it is useful for when you want to assign a client ID or some other meta information to every user. So let's say the front-end user has logged in with Jason at something.com. I know this Jason has an account with my service, and I know that this person's username is this and client ID is this. I can assign that to this person and send it back. So for, let's say in a service where you're seeing, who else is using that service, you can make use of that client ID or username or other information to show, hey, by the way, these people are on this same page, or adding reactions at this time.
Got it. Okay, so I'm gonna use the callback format because we're doing like the REST style. So we'll do if error. We're going to call back with status code 500 and a body of JSON stringify error. And then, oops. All right, so then we can take the same kind of setup here, say else, we'll do a callback with status code of 200. And it looks like we need a header of content type location JSON, and then we'll do a body, and the body was JSON stringify token request.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So essentially what's happening here is now our function is communicating with Ably directly with the API key, but because it's not accessible to front-end clients, it's okay to use the API key. But for the front-end clients, it is offering, it is sending back the token request on a need basis after checking the credentials, if they are okay to, use that service. So you sort of put that layer in between.
So what I am wondering here is I'm not passing anything in, right?
Yeah, I mean, the token request over there is empty, so that should be okay. We will end up authenticating everyone.
Okay.
And also not assigning them any attributes.
Okay, so we don't need either of those. But what we should get now, if we go out and run this again, is first and foremost, we got that API key here, and then it runs, but it didn't like something. Oh wait, that did work though. Oh, it's because I made this async. Still didn't like it. What have I done? Status code 200, what have I... Oh. When you use the callback format, the response has to be the second parameter, because the first parameter is an error. Okay. So now we have a key name, we have a timestamp, we have a nonce, and we have a MAC, whatever that is. And the MAC is like the actual device.
No, it's some authentication parameter.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Yeah. So we need this URL. Do you want to continue using localhost or actually deploy this?
We can get the URL. We can do both. Let me go ahead and deploy it. So let's get add all, and then we'll get commit, and we'll say work in progress, add token auth URL endpoint. Shoot. I just crap. Git reset head 1. Yeah. Okay. So now let's echo nothing into .gitignore, and then let's try that one more time with node modules and gitignore. Yeah, that's better. Let's try that again. So git commit and wait, I have
also the environment file if you have it.
So I use the GitHub CLI or the Netlify CLI to set the environment variable specifically so we wouldn't have to worry about it.
Awesome.
Okay, so now I can git push, and because I didn't push that, I don't have to like do any rollbacks. I just skipped that. So we didn't actually like push that original broken commit. That's the power of fixing Git mistakes before you push. That should mean this will be live here in just a second. Oh no, I didn't like it. What didn't it like? Netlify function. Oh, you know what I forgot to do? When we added that, we didn't add a package JSON. So I'm going to npm init. And we'll just do like npm init yes, and then I'm going to npm install Ably one more time. Okay, now if I git add everything and git commit add package.json, let's push one more time. If you don't have a package JSON, it doesn't store the dependencies, which means it won't try to install them, which means your build will fail. If you want to avoid the callback method, you can use promises. Yeah, we could look at ways to whether does this REST SDK include like a promises API if we wanted to do it differently?
Yes, there's information on documentation that people can check out to use the promise style.
Nice, nice, nice. Um, so yeah, we
That's
just
okay. That's the response we'll get. What we need to do now, if
mhm.
the function is live, is get the URL for that function.
Function is live. That means that it's going to be over here, but I can just copy paste this one, bring it over here. Blam.
Okay,
All right.
awesome. So copy that URL. Over here, the place we are instantiating ably, which is in the script. So we said new ably.realtime and sent it just that string.
Right.
That ably.realtime takes in a JSON object. In that, you can either specify key, which would be this, or auth URL, which is what we'll specify now.
So do I do it as like auth URL like this?
Yes, perfect. So U is capital, camel case, and just paste that as a string then. Awesome.
Okay.
That's all. That's pretty much it. So if you go back, and it should still work.
Let's run it to make sure that it's doing what we expect. Okay, so here we are. I'm going to head out here, reload the page. Bam, bam, bam. Things are going wrong. What have I done?
There is an error in the console.
Access is blocked by cores. Cores! Okay, that's fine. That's fine. We can fix that really fast. To do cores, I need to get my options request. Let's see, Netlify. There's like just a nice little copy pastable. Here it is. So if we do it like this, we can drop in these headers right at the top here. So what I'm going to do is we're actually going to do just if event dot wait, what is it? Event dot HTTP method is the one I was looking for. And we're looking for options because that's actually what gets called for cores. Then I'm going to take this and we're going to return. Doesn't actually check the body, you just have to send one. So then we can do this, and let me just link to this Stack Overflow answer because we didn't write this code. So then, what did I break? I have like an extra, there we go. All right, so this should fix the cores problem. So let's git commit am. What? Typos all over the place. Off we go, and this thing should deploy nice and quickly again. Of course. Here we go. Off to the races. Let's start this thing up again. Netlify dev. Okay, so now it's you were not blocked by cores. Why are you blocked by cores? I did the thing. We did what you asked. Let's look again here.
Have you refreshed the page after that?
So we're sending off request headers. Oh, it's running off as a get. Oh, I wonder if I just need to include those headers all the time, because let's just do that. Okay, so
Yes.
We're not actually sending an options request. We're sending a get request, which is a different thing. So a get request with these options or these headers should mean that we can call it from wherever the content type is allowed, and we can send get, post, put, or delete. We could probably lock that down to get, but I don't want to get too lost in the weeds here because I really want this to work. So let's get add all. Then we will get commit. Say my commit messages get increasingly frenetic as we get panicked for time. So now we get. Oh, here's a question: do people use GraphQL with Ably?
They could be. We have used it in some of our interesting dev projects. So.
Yeah, I think because you could use Ably as the transport for like a GraphQL subscription or something, right?
Oh yeah, we actually have a project which implements that and makes it available in NPM for anyone wanting to do that directly.
Nice.
So you could have that GraphQL on the front end, but still use Ably's native methods for any other platforms which don't inherently support GraphQL.
Yeah, that's really nice. All right, here we go. This time it's going to work, everyone. This is the one. I can feel it. All right. Hey, look at that. No errors this time. So let's get in here. Let's do some requests. Hey, look at it go.
Look at that.
All right.
Nice.
So now, actually, this should work out here too because we deployed it. So let's everybody go refresh your browser and start doing some real time. Let's make sure this thing works. Look at it go. Look at everybody. Boop this dog. Yeah, this is great. Like we're seeing real time come in, and now we also have the benefit of when we look at the repo. If I go and look at my repo here, which again has opened in the wrong browser. Don't you freeze on me, computer. All right. If we go and look at this browser, what's on GitHub is not sensitive anymore. So this is allowed to be published. Like there's nothing secret about this. And when we get into the function itself, this is allowed to be published. It's an environment variable, right? So now we can actually publish this code. It's safe to share this out, even though what we're allowing is effectively anonymous access. What we do have is when people post things through, and I'm not going to look at the network tab because I know what you jokers could do if you're being naughty. Is if somebody was being a bad actor, we have their unique connection ID and we could ban that connection. And if we were building more robust commands, we could try to ban an IP or things like that. So now we have a little bit more control. And you said earlier, I think, that we can take this further and actually make this. It can rely on a login. It can rely on a JOT token or something like that, right?
Mm-hmm. There's also, other than token authentication, as a subpart of token authentication, there's also JWT that you can use with any other existing auth services that you might have, which are already working with JWT.
That's great. This is awesome. This went super well. You can see is clearly the reaction we're after here.
Awesome. Very cool.
This is amazing. Like I love the fact that I think by the time we stopped talking and started building, it was about 45 minutes ago, maybe a little bit more. But we've been able to put together a rough UI really quick, but we were able to wire up real-time communication, get that thing deployed on the internet, put it up in a way that's secure, that we can share safely, no API keys required. And at no point did anyone on this stream, outside of when we talked about it in the abstract, have to think about a WebSocket connection or the pieces like that. And the thing that's cool is, like, if you do go through to your network tab, we can see the WebSocket connection here. And this is a thing that's really useful, is if you go and you look at one of these, you can see the messages, and it kind of shows you as messages come through what is actually happening. I find this really helpful to get a better sense of what's going on. But but you know, we can see a lot of information here, and it's a very kind of nice experience.
Definitely.
So, wow, Srishika, we just owned it today.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Even for
So,
stuff like, so I see 62 people on the stream, right? And we're having like these so many reactions on the actual page. If we wanted to share with everyone on the globe, we didn't have to change anything because Ably is still taking care of the infrastructure. You just pay for the particular tier for, you know, to be able to use more number of messages, but that's it. From the developer side, you're actually not doing anything.
yeah, that's really amazing. So one more thing that we had talked about, and I don't know if we have time for, is you had talked about the idea of presence. So if we wanted to show how many people are looking at this page right now, is that something that we could implement in the next 15 minutes?
Yes, definitely. I think
Okay.
so.
How would we go about doing that?
So I'm thinking, you know how Twitch has all these usernames. We can maybe give an input box for people to add in their usernames, and when they click enter, they enter a present set on the channel, on the reactions channel, and we'll be able to see as soon as someone has entered the channel or exited the channel. In effect, like enter the app or basically quit the app.
Would it be possible, just given that I have no way to moderate, to just say like X people are connected right now so that we don't have usernames?
So yeah, whenever you are subscribing to the channel, the place where you're subscribing to the channel, you can also let people automatically enter presence. So here we won't get the username because no one is entering it, and we don't have that ability from the auth side, but we can still get the numbers, right? So
yeah,
I can walk you through the documentation or directly the method if you like.
let's just drop it right in, right? So so kind of going back to the basics here, I'm connecting. This gets me authentication. Then I go into my channels and I get the reactions channel, and this is my connection to it.
Yeah.
So
that
when
is the channel instance. So when you subscribe to the channel, you have subscribed to it. Now you have the capability of receiving the messages coming on that channel. Immediately after that, let's make the user enter the present set. Now, present set is a separate thing that you need to explicitly enter on the channel. So you would say reactions channel dot.
Reactions channel.
So here we're only entering, we're not showing yet. For showing, we would subscribe to presence on that later on.
Okay.
So
got it.
Now, yeah.
All right. So I'll comment this later.
Cool. So reactions channel dot presence dot enter, and enter is a method.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now we're in this would be me saying, "I'm here, everyone."
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
But to know you yourself or other people knowing who is on presence and who is coming in and going in, you would say reaction channels dot presence dot subscribe this time.
Oh, presence.
Because subscribe would be a direct subscribe to data like we did above.
And
so
are the events
subscribe,
like like enter or something?
Exactly. So you can subscribe to enter, you can subscribe to leave, you can subscribe to update. So this one
is update would update be like all of them?
No. So update is, as we said before, there could be some information related to every user, right? Like username or some other metadata. An update would be triggered whenever someone updates their presence information.
Gotcha. Okay. So let's do this. We will just down underneath, we can set a paragraph and say 0, or let's give it a span name. Span class, current presence count, and we'll say 0 people are here right now. Okay. So then what I would want to do is when someone comes in, I want to set the current number. So does the event include like a total?
No, so that event includes only one single member who has just entered. So it would be like when on trigger of that enter event, you could increment a local counter or something.
Okay, I got you. Yeah, so let's do. I mean, we can just kind of do the same thing that we did here before, right? We'll get the current count, but this time it will be current presence count. So we'll get our current presence count, and then we will set, this one we can do
There's
as
a
a
hyphen.
document. And then with this one, we'll just set equals current count plus 1. Okay. And then for the others, let's do a leave. We can do a presence -1.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Awesome.
that, let's see what this one, not even going to check it. Let's just ship it. Get add all, and then we're going to get commit, show presence counts. And so there was a question about like getting the numbers to sync up. The step that we're not showing here is we're not showing any kind of like data persistence. So
Yes.
if I wanted to keep track, I would need like a database, and I would write the database and then kind of send the updated counts over Ably.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So initially, when the website loads, you would retrieve the existing count from there and show that, and then start the counter from there. That is one option. But also, even though Ably doesn't do long-term storage, it does provide temporary storage for up to 72 hours, which
Okay.
means you can request previously published information by rewinding on a channel at the time of subscribe, or by explicitly using a REST API called History API by requesting previously published information on a channel.
Got it. Okay. So we didn't check this, but let me see if I have an error in here. No errors. So I think if people start joining,
It might be
I screwed something up.
error. I think I saw a warning in the console from Ably.
Let's see what it says here.
Says malform, no client ID message. Oh yes, that is my bad. You need to enter with a client ID if the because we've implemented token authentication, we can just give them a random token in our netlify function. So if you go back to the Ably auth_url.js, over there, we can basically, in our token parameters that we had before, just like, over there, you can just say client ID, and that could be some sort of a randomized thing.
This is going to be ugly. I'm sorry, everyone. That seems okay. Yeah.
Yeah, that should be
Okay.
good.
So let's git commit, and we'll say add a random client ID. Okay. So we'll let that build. And that should just take a second. There we go.
Oh no.
Here we go. All right, let's try this one more time. Let's see, it doesn't like invalid client ID must be a string. No, okay. We can fix that.
Right.
We can fix that. So let's do string. And now it's a string.
Got that.
Okay, so then here we go. All right, this is it. This is the one. This is going to be the thing, and then we're going to get.
Fingers crossed. We're doing this. Jason seems angry.
Oh my goodness. There we go, almost done, and off to the races. All right.
Okay, I think it's working.
It's
Look at
working,
that.
and there's our presence. And as people leave, they're coming in and out. All right. So there are a million things that we would want to
hackers,
clean up.
You dirty hackers.
But what's really exciting about this is that, what we did that in like 8 minutes or so, I think. And that is for like a quick and dirty, how many people are looking at this webpage right now. That is pretty dang impressive. So I really, really like this. I think combining this with any kind of an authentication solution where I'm logged into a site and then I can just use that authentication as a way to determine presence. Because what it looks like, I didn't look deeply into it, but when you were saying token parameters, there was one for username. There was one for, hey, what's up, Alex? Thanks everybody. You're coming in right at the end. We just built some really cool stuff. If you want to play, go check out, wait, no, let me actually send the thing here. Go check this out. Go jump on here and you can do real-time reactions. And these are gonna run across and you'll all see the counts increment in real time, the number of people and the number of reactions. So this is a really fun thing that we've done. We're using Ably for this. So what else? Like, I mean, there's a million things that we could do here. We are out of time, unfortunately, for like additional dev. But let's talk for a second about possibilities. So if I am letting somebody log into my site, I'm going to get a user ID. And I can use that user ID as my client ID. I can set a username. It sounds like I can just set arbitrary data, right? For whatever that token is. And once I've done that, I could have like, we could send somebody's mouse position and we could do those like synced cursors where things all move around the screen. We could
exactly.
Like what else have you seen? What are some of your favorite implementations of real time that you've seen?
Definitely live collaboration, like, live cursor tracking or, editing a document or chatting, things like that. Live collaboration has been actually really big in the past 1 year because of obvious reasons. So that's definitely a big one. But also really interesting things like location tracking for when people are just moving around and you are able to track the location of the person in real time on a map and see that on any device. That is also sending its GPS location in real time. And we actually have a specific SDK called Asset Tracking SDK for that, wherein you get the UI benefits of it as well and sort of out of the box implementation of real time tracking on the map.
That's really cool.
That's pretty cool. Yeah. And we have things like multiplayer games, like it doesn't have to be turn-based where you're just, it could be turn-based games, but you can also have really interactive games where you're just, shooting away things, not so violent maybe, but essentially everyone is participating at the same time and is still able to see this, the same context of the game without, messing the things up.
Yeah.
Around.
Yeah, I mean, this is super fun. Like I love all the ways that you can kind of start making collaborative web projects without having to become an expert in like WebSocket protocol or any of the low level transport stuff. We can just fire up Ably, fire up a site on Netlify and like off to the races. In an hour we can play with something like this. And I'm just imagining, how fun it would be to be able to do something where, we could make these emotes like fly up like on Instagram Live, or we could show everybody's cursor and everybody could be like petting this dog right now. There's so many fun things that we could do with real time that seem feasible with Ably that I would have just been like, that'd be fun, but I'm not going to do it if I have to build the real time layer myself.
Definitely. One of the demos I had for a conference talk was virtual reality, which is accessible on the web using this A-Frame VR library. And everyone in the conference, the audience, had that on their mobile. And I showed all of their avatars in a space. And as they moved their phone in sort of real life, their avatar danced around and moved in the sort of virtual space as well. So that was
that's really fun. I mean, I love stuff like that. And I saw a link in the chat to Ably Labs here. So these are just a whiteboard. That's a great idea. Yeah, exactly. Some chat stuff, syncing stream videos. This is a watch party app, right? There was a Didn't Daniel Peary did this one?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
so we collaborated on that watch party app, and that's how I mean, as part of that app, I realized what Jamstack is and what the buzz is all about, and how Ably is a perfect companion in that sort of new trend. So we sort of built this hosted, like the app itself is hosted on Netlify, of course, and it uses Ably to synchronize the timestamps of the video. We can actually try that out if we have time.
Sure, yeah. Let's see what I can do here. I'm gonna go in here.
Mm-hmm.
Copy shareable link. All right.
Yeah.
So
Give that to
I'm
people
sharing
in the
my
chat.
link. And then to pick a video to watch, let's stream PubSub. All right. And synced Rickroll, that would have been a great idea. But now if people jump in here with me, and again, you can jump in here. Yeah, here's
There are
5
4
people watching.
Yeah.
And so I'm just going to mute it so that we don't get a bunch of extra noise in here. But so now we should all be watching the same thing at the same time. And I'm going to switch over to who's watching instead of the comments, just in case. But I mean, this is super fun. Like I love the things that are possible with this, right? So we've got a list of cool projects. We've got Ably Labs. Where should somebody go if they want to take next steps?
So definitely on Ably's homepage, you have links to everything that you need, direct links to documentation, all the features that it provides. I think one major thing we didn't talk about is integrations, how it has incoming and outgoing webhooks functionality using which you can talk to third-party services or streaming data sources like streaming or queuing services like Kafka and things like that, or service function like the Netlify functions. So you have everything on the homepage available. You just land there, figure out what you want to do, and go to the right place. So yeah.
No, that's great. Well, great. So Srushika, is there anywhere else that you want people to know? I'm going to do another drop to your Twitter. Anywhere else you want people to check out?
Definitely Ably Labs is one, and the website. That's pretty much it for now.
Awesome. All right, y'all. Well, this episode, like all episodes, has been captioned. We've had Jordan with us here all day from White Coat Captioning, and that's brought to you by Netlify, Fauna, Hasura, and Auth0. Thank you to them for making the show more accessible to more people. Make sure you go and check out the dang schedule. This week is a little bit special because we have another episode tomorrow. Speaking of Daniel, we were just talking about him, the Ably example. He's going to come on tomorrow, and we're going to build something with Strapi, which is a whole lot of fun. We've done a little bit of Strapi on the stream before. I've seen it a lot around the old interweb, and there's a lot of fun stuff happening there. And then on Thursday, we're doing another one. We're doing 3 this week, y'all. We're going to have Moriel come on and talk about right-to-left support for websites. So if you've never seen right-to-left support, come check this one out because it's not as simple as it sounds, and that's going to be a whole lot of fun. So yeah, that's it. Go make sure you mark your calendar. Add on Google Calendar. We'll show you when the episodes are happening so that you can stay up to date on that. Wow, what a great time. Thank you all so much for hanging out. Srushika, thank you so much for hanging out. We're going to go find somebody to raid. Thanks, y'all. We'll see you next time.
Yeah. Thanks a lot for having me. I had a lot of fun.